Two U.S. Air Force service members stationed in Delaware have been arrested for a series of cyber theft crimes. The FBI says the city of Athens is a victim of one of those crimes. City officials held a press conference today to provide updates about the case. Our Thomas Chase went to the press conference and he has more.
The city of Athens fell victim to a cyber theft of over $720,000 in November 2024. The theft was centered around the construction of the fire station on Stimson Avenue. Service Safety Director Andy Stone of the city of Athens says that the city filed a John Jane Doe lawsuit to the Target bank account, quote, within days of the theft being discovered. Stone added that speed was of the essence to stop any further transfer and laundering of the stolen money.
This endeavor was ultimately successful, and we were able to have $349,522.10 of stolen funds returned and frozen in the Target bank account. An additional victim was also discovered as part of this process.
The city negotiated between the other identified victim a return of around $200,000 of funds frozen from the bank account. Stone said that the city was notified by the FBI field office of Iowa City, Iowa, that the FBI found evidence that, quote, appears to link the city's cyber theft case to the ones that they were working on.
An indictment was filed in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Iowa, naming two defendants of a series of cyber crimes. The people listed on the indictment were subsequently arrested. The persons listed with the Iowa indictment are individuals living in the United States. Up until their arrest, they were active duty military in the United States Air Force. Both were stationed at Dover Air Force Base in Dover, Delaware.
Stone added that the city was not formally named as a victim in the indictment, but the FBI informed the city that they will be added as an additional victim during sentencing if there is a conviction. The city is hopeful that the remainder of the stolen funds will be returned through restitution if there is a conviction. Other avenues for the recovery of stolen funds are being explored as well. Stone says that the city has made several improvements to ensure that the city is protected from any future cyber thefts.
Improvements made have included complete replacement of aging hardware and servers, complete migration of multi-factor authentication for all staff. Previous multi-factor authentication was required only for specific departments and offices.
You can find more improvements the city has made on our website, WTAP.com. Stone added that, quote, Athens has been committed to improving our processes to minimize the chances of a theft happening again in the future, end quote. In Athens, I'm Thomas Chase with WTAP News.
WTAP